Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Today we're excited to have Scott Fahl join us. Scott, a dedicated entrepreneur, began his journey in real estate and quickly recognized the industry's need for automation. In 2009, he created Privy, a groundbreaking platform that streamlines residential investment real estate. Thanks to Scott's innovative approach and leadership, Privy has expanded nationwide, offering unparalleled investor insights and efficiency. As a tech optimist and visionary, Scott continues to push boundaries with Privy and RE Data Lab Incorporated. Can't wait for you guys to hear this one. Let's get into the episode. So, Scott, thank you for sitting across the table from me today on Uncontested Investing. First off, got to say, we appreciate you taking the flight from Colorado to the Big Apple for an episode of Uncontested Investing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so CEO at Privy sounds great, but there's a long journey to get there. So today we're going to dive into your story, talk about you a little bit, talk about what you do for investors, the product. You gave me a walkthrough prior to the episode. The product's amazing, so we're going to get to all that good stuff. But let's rewind back to 2007 because you were an investor yourself at one point with a mortgage company. So what was it like? There's a huge gap or maybe a dividing point in real estate in 2008. It's kind of pre-2008, post-2008. So up until 2007, can you take us back? What was that like for you those days?
The glory days, right? Where everybody is slinging subprime paper all over the place. I had a mortgage company, a small one, but we were, in hindsight, probably part of the problem, right? So we were doing subprime paper and, everybody was buying houses. And it felt great. It's like it was never going to end. And then it did, right? And during that process, though, I had bought several real estate investment properties. And when the market crashed, so did I. I basically had to start over from scratch. So that was like, the highs and lows, just wham, and it was done overnight. And, I wasn't the only one. It affected tens of millions of people. And trying to figure out what happens next is sort of what put me on this path.
Mm-hmm. So a couple years go by, and then around 2012, like you said, you had to start from scratch. So there's obviously going to be the few years of picking up the pieces, strategizing next moves, whatever those may be. In 2012, that's when the idea of Privy is born, maybe a couple months before that or after that. But what was that like? What was your mindset like? What was the confidence level? You kind of had an idea that turned into something much bigger, but those beginning days had to be tough, kind of making that call of, this is what I want to do. This is going to be my journey going forward.
Yeah, my story is similar to a lot of entrepreneurs, right? So it was essentially building something out of necessity. I worked at an REO brokerage. I think most of your listeners will know what that is. And there was plenty of opportunities to go around. And one thing I learned through that process is that no matter what the market condition, investors are going to find a way to make money. Like it was ingrained in me because all you ever heard, any news article, any newspaper, any person was talking about how bad it was. And all I was doing is selling properties as fast as you possibly could to investors who were paying cash and just swooping them up. And so I learned really quickly about what they were after, like what drove them. How did they know what to buy, right? And what not to buy. And it started becoming crystal clear to me what they were doing. And it wasn't even that difficult, to be honest. It's essentially, you find something that works and repeat it over and over and over, right? And it's literally as simple as that. And that's sort of where the idea came from. However, at the REO brokerage, I had no intention of building software as where we are today. I was just trying to build something to help me do my job better, right? And it really started with data. So I had access to MLS, I had a real estate license working at the brokerage. And when the property started drying up, you had to get creative to find these properties people were after. So the investor already knew what they wanted. You just had to keep finding them, right? And as the market started drying up, which inevitably it was going to, I was struggling. I was really trying to figure out how to find these properties faster and more efficient. I'd literally get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and for the next 3 hours, I'd analyze everything that happened in the last 24 hours in the MLS, trying to find something that matched one of my investors' buy boxes, right? It was a slog. So I eventually got a meeting with the CEO of the MLS in Denver, and I forget how I got that. I don't know what she was doing meeting with me, but I essentially went in there and said, I need access to the data to do my job. because the MLS is not set up in any way, shape, or form to help people who help agents who work with investors. She essentially told me to go jump in a lake, but 6 months later, she called me back and said, look, the National Association of Realtors is pushing this thing called RETS. It stands for Real Estate Transaction Standard. It's going to get all 700 plus MLSs at the time on a data standard because they weren't. It was everybody had different ways of doing bedrooms and bathrooms and the whole 9 yards. And she asked me if I wanted to be the guinea pig, and I had to bring an agent to the table, and I was an agent, and I had to find my own developer, and I said, sure. So I got the data, and we started writing algorithms, right? And that turned into, I was basically trying to write an automated valuation model, like similar to a Zestimate, but for real estate investing.
Yep.
But we all know how good a Zestimate works, right? It could be wildly off on a regular, and it usually is on a regular basis. And they had a lot more money than I had. So if they couldn't figure it out, I wasn't going to be able to. So I was about to give up, and I just had a really strong developer, and I threw this thing at him. I just said, look, can we track what other investors are having success with in this market right now? And he said, well, what did you have in mind? And we started with the easiest algorithm, something that sold and resold 90 days for 50% more than what it was purchased for. So he just types it out. He says, done. I said, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, there it is. So I'm looking at the results, and sure enough, he was able to identify everybody who did a 50% or better ARV deal in the last 90 days, going back a year, and he did it in 60 seconds. So we were like, wait a minute.
That's eye-opening for sure.
Yeah. So, that idea of if investors know what to do, right, and they have a strategy that works, and all they need to do is just repeat it. When you can start with what everybody is having success with, you can just repeat off of that. So that we knew we were onto something. So I had him basically stick that algorithm back into the system and say, let's see if we can find every active property that matches what we just wrote, essentially creating a buy box. And it was another 60 seconds and it was done. And we were able to identify every fix and flip that happened, and we were able to find every deal that matches it in real time.
Yep. One thing I love talking to entrepreneurs about is where they get their spirit from. Just talking to you in that one answer alone, I can tell you have such a drive. You are somebody that doesn't like hearing no. You're tinkering, finding solutions, right? You just walked me through the whole process of how an entrepreneur's brain works. Is that something that you feel like you had to work on throughout your career? Is that something that just kind of came naturally to you? Because that's a lot of the legwork that goes into being successful in this industry. It's just having that drive, that spirit. People call it that entrepreneurial spirit, right? It's just finding solutions and alternatives and creative ways to find success. And that seems like that encapsulates you perfectly.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But, there's a lot that goes into that question, right? And you start self-identifying and being self-aware of who you are and what you're about and what makes you tick. For me, it's definitely complex problems and trying to solve them, right? And there's, we're trying to simplify real estate investing for the masses. That's a big problem, right? And trying to solve it. When you have these like little wins, that's the thing that keeps you going, right? Yep. You're like, wait a minute, we just identified everybody who did a fix and flip in the market in 60 seconds, and we just found every deal that matches it, and your mind just explodes. And you're like, wait a minute, can help out a lot of people. Initially, to be honest, I was thinking this is going to make me a lot of money, right? And then once I got into it, and we see, there's a lot has happened since then. And now that we're into it, deep into it, we're realizing how powerful it is and how many people we're helping on a regular basis and how many more are left to be able to help. And that's what starts driving you. Yeah. And then, when you're doing something for somebody else, there's no quitting. There's no, I'm too tired. There's no, I'm just going to take this money and retire. It's no, you got a bigger thing going on now. So you have to, that's what starts to drive you. If you can get to that point, you're in a really good spot.
I think you may have just answered my next question, which is all right. But with over 10 years of success in the industry, you guys are doing something right. It can't be as simple. Maybe it is as just solving that problem for investors. But what are you most proud of? What do you guys do so well at Privy that you think has made this longevity possible for you?
Yeah, well, I can't say the whole time it's been successful. That's for sure. I mean, there's multiple times through journeys like this where you do want to throw in a towel, where it does seem impossible and overwhelming, and then all of a sudden something will happen, something will click. Yeah. And it's sort of that drive to just keep going, really. I mean, that everybody's heard that, right? It's just the drive, just keep going.
It matters, though. It's a real thing.
I think of things like if you spend a decade doing something, like learning how to play the guitar, in 10 years, you're going to be pretty good at playing the guitar, right? And that works for just about everything except for maybe golf, right? Golf is one of those things. 10 years later, I'm just as bad as I was 10 years ago. But, that's what happens. And when you start uncovering these things and getting better and you look back and you realize how long this journey has been and how long you've been doing it and how much you've learned, that's what keeps you going.
Yep, for sure. So as a CEO in a leadership role, there's two sides to it, right? There's the company's overall health, the bottom line, making sure the lights stay on. You're writing those checks for the paychecks every week or so, whatever the case may be. But there's also the managing of the people. So how do you balance those two things? What are some of your goals for the company and then for the employees' particular growth, if that makes sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And, I'm relatively new to that, right? So I've always been sort of entrepreneur, visionary side, big ideas, let's make some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then you start having success, right? So it was 3 years ago, I think we grew 1,000%. And it was at that time where I realized, like there's a whole bunch of things we need to do and I don't have the skills or the experience to do it. So what you do is you just get advice and you get help and you hire the right people who've been there before. And then you work on yourself on a consistent basis. What can I do to be a better leader today versus yesterday? And it's really baby steps in the right direction. And it's what, as an entrepreneur, once you've had some success and you've built things, you treat almost everything like that. Like you just get going and you just do baby steps in the right direction and be vulnerable and humble enough to adapt. And you can do just about anything. So today, we're 20 people and growing, and our team is incredible. Like the people that work there, it's just amazing, like what human beings can do with the drive and the vision. And that's pretty much my job, is the vision on a daily basis to make sure people understand what we're doing this for.
Yep.
And, once they do, it's amazing what comes out of them.
I think it's helpful to have a CEO like you, right? Because I think it's infectious, the drive, the passion. Other people come on board and they're like, okay, if the CEO cares that much, then I want to care that much too, right? And that's such a good answer. I have so many CEOs that grace the desk and we have these great conversations. And one of the things that always rings true is they don't want to be the smartest person in the room, or they're not too proud, or, they don't have an ego where they're okay to accept help. But then you on the back end there, you slip something in that I really like, where you talked about, okay, now you have to do the work on yourself, right? To hire these great people, but then catch up and kind of get to where they are, right? So there's two sides to that story. It's not just hiring the great people, it's continuing to improve and grow personally, individually.
I totally agree with that. And, the self-awareness part is key too. Like, what are you good at, what you're not good at? And, there's a company needs a lot of different departments, a lot of people, and a lot of talented people. But when it comes to leading a company, there's basically, in my mind, two ways. There's a visionary and there's an operator, right? And there's been books written about this. And once you realize which one you are, it makes life a lot easier. So operators are the ones that, every day, very task-oriented, very detailed-oriented. And visionaries more like, hey, here's the next big idea. Here's why this matters. And, basically, I don't want to say like selling company, because you're not selling. In a way, I guess you are. You're saying, hey, this is what this vision is. I need you all to understand it and get behind it. And then operations is, let's make sure we're doing everything properly. And I'm definitely not on the operations side, right? I'm learning, right? I can handle a lot of things. Obviously, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
But when you do get an operator, then, things change dramatically.
Scott, thanks so much. We're off to a great start. The insight has been on point so far. I'm looking forward to keeping this conversation going. We're going to take a quick break. Our sponsors are going to jump in. We'll do a quick ad read. We'll be right back with Scott from Privy. I'm excited for the rest of this episode. Thanks.
Of course.
Are you ready to transform your real estate investing? Privy boosts efficiency and profitability for investors, agents, and lenders. Using real-time data from successful investors, Privy's platform highlights profitable opportunities across the U.S. Emulate the best, minimize risk, and increase your confidence in every deal. Privy's extensive data set includes direct MLS feeds, public records, mortgage data, and comprehensive rental comps. This real-time information lets you make informed, swift decisions, perfect for expanding your portfolio and achieving success. Don't miss out. Click the link in the bio for a discounted monthly membership. I'm joined by Scott Fahl, the CEO at Privy. So Scott, next up for us is the Money Making Minute. This segment is going to be investment strategy, app, skill, any piece of advice that our listeners can use, really, right? It's anything that can make them more successful, that you swear by, that you like to do, that is part of your daily routine maybe. So what can our listeners out there, specifically maybe real estate investors, what can they do to be more successful? Let's hear it, the Money Making Minute.
Yeah, so for me, I specialize and my team specializes in technology. So when we talk about what are the most important things, for us, it's always going to be about technology and using data and using it effectively. One of the things you want to look for when you're looking for technology is something that's proactive, right? A lot of people are used to reactive technology. You type something in, you get an answer, right? And I think a good way to talk about that is when you go to Zillow and try to find a home. Like you're really typing in the number of bedrooms and bathrooms you need for your family. You're looking for schools for your kids. But with real estate investing, it's very different. You don't just type in something and there's going to be a search engine that's going to deliver results. So being proactive means using technology that helps you answer questions that you don't even know how to ask. And that's our specialty, is being able to go, what are real estate investors doing? Where are they doing it? Where are they having success? And then using that information to offer results that allow people to mimic that success. And for me, that's the fastest, simplest way to get the ball rolling in the right direction. So my money-making minute would be using software and technology and data that's proactive, that can help educate you as well as accomplish your goals.
Scott, that was a great piece of advice there. Our faithful listeners at this point know I love a good segue, and it rolls perfectly into my next question, right? Because you talked about proactive data. So a lot of people know about an issue and they know the solution they want to create, but it's the journey of getting to that solution that is the biggest hurdle. So with your software background, your tech knowledge, and what you've built at Privy, how much of advantage do you think you guys have at maybe creating those solutions, finding those solutions, getting those problems solved quicker, essentially? How much of a fact do you think that is in Privy's success?
It's everything. So when you starting 10, 12 years ago with an idea and hitting, kind of a jackpot on an algorithm, that's the ideas like that can die very quickly unless you build on top of them and find a way to actually help out a user base, and how are you going to take it to market. And there's a lot more involved than just having a good idea. And for us, it was, it's never good enough. It's always kind of this will work a certain way, and it works to a certain level, and certain people get it. You always get early adopters and you get champions of the software. But that's not our goal. Our goal is not just to get early adopters. It's to help everybody be able to invest in real estate confidently and easily. And that's, in order to do that, you have to eliminate a lot of the confusion. And we all know it's common knowledge. Real estate investing is a great way to build wealth. And, walking down New York here, walking down Manhattan, and I always do this. I just look at every window and every building and think there's an adult behind it that would love to be able to invest in real estate. Maybe I'm a little obsessed, but that's kind of how I think about it. And so what's stopping them? And it is that confusion. It's what's their first step? And there's the, you can Google it, you read a book, you can get a guru. There's lots of options and avenues, but it's not clear. And so people end up getting confused and staying on the fence. And our job is to make it as clear as humanly possible. And after a decade or, 12 years since the idea, we're getting to that point where proactive is what it is. So if somebody doesn't know what question to ask, then how can you help that person, right? It's easy if they know what to ask. Give me a 2-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 1,200 square foot Nebraska, right? You're like, here you go. That's easy. You can set a search for that and it'll deliver it to you all day long. But if they don't know what to ask, then how can you help them? So what we've developed is a way to do that. And essentially what that is just showing them what successful investors are doing. I hinted towards this earlier, but that's doable. If you have the right data sources and you have the right algorithms and you have the right tracking, you can track every investor in the United States, successful and unsuccessful. So you can do things like, what's the best investment in a 5-mile radius from my house? And if you were to ask most people that right now, you would get a whole plethora of answers, and probably none of them. Yeah, and probably none of them would be, very accurate. And you can even ask professionals that are investing in that area, and they say, well, I'm having success with X. Is that the only possibility, or is there other options? They don't know. And you can ask real estate agents who do this for a living, what's the best investment, in whatever zip code? They don't know. And it's because that data and that technology doesn't exist, because it's reactive versus proactive, right? So the agent has to go in and say, what's the most successful investment in 5-mile radius? There's nowhere you can ask that besides, well, now us. And I think that was the game changer. That's the part that puts us in front, and that's the part that's going to keep us there. Yeah. Because it really does allow you to go to new markets that you've never stepped foot in and be a real estate expert of what's happening there in 60 seconds and finding deals in an additional 60 seconds. And it really does work that fast and that easy.
I like hearing that, because on Uncontested Investing, I'm sure the listener base runs the gamut when it comes to real estate investing experience. And I hope if there's a chunk of those people that are on the fence, like you said, that are very unsure about if real estate investing is worth the risk, if they should take that leap. You use so many different phrases on this show before, but something like what you provide just allows them that peace of mind, and that it is out there, that there's help out there, right? It's not I have to do this myself type of thing. We talk about that in so many different variables, whether it's networking, mentorship, finding the right education, or now here, the right technology or right software that just can give them that peace of mind that it's like, okay, I'm doing the smart, right thing here by taking this step and investing in real estate. I'm not hoping, I'm knowing, and that's a big difference. So I like hearing answers like that a lot.
Yeah, and just to, maybe add a little color to that, where, when you're talking about knowing, right, and then, education and everybody's, where do I start, what do I do, who do I talk to? I really think it's as easy as, what are the most successful people doing? And you can do that in any job, any career, any hobby. What are the most successful people doing? And you always hear stories of, the best people have mentors that got super successful. Almost everybody will tell you that they have a mentor that they followed. And in real estate investing is no different. However, it's very difficult to find busy real estate successful investors to sit down and teach you everything you need to know. And it's changing all the time. And that's where the proactive piece comes in. So you could have, you can ask a successful older man how he made his money in real estate. And you say, well, that strategy still work today? The answer is probably not, because it changes so often. So how do you stay ahead of it? You have to have it up-to-date data that's proactively feeding you information. And that's the education piece, is what is somebody doing in market X? And you're just tracking it based on successful real estate investors. And just watch what happens over a 12-month period. It changes. Spreads get bigger, they get smaller, strategies change. And people are always, on the front end of that or the back end, right? Where, you bought the last house where you maybe shouldn't have, right? And so being able to track all of that, being proactive and getting that sent to you on a regular basis, it's very easy to stay on top of it at that point.
So in 2024, when you're talking about technology and software, the conversation's eventually going to snowball into talking about AI, artificial intelligence. It's an absolute buzzword, especially in this industry. So from somebody that is involved in the technology and software aspect of real estate investing, is there any big challenges, pitfalls, maybe things to start utilizing when it comes to artificial intelligence? What would be your advice to a real estate investor, right? Is it more important to avoid certain things or to take advantage of certain things when it comes to AI?
Yeah, I mean, buzzword it's been in technology a long time, and it's probably the biggest buzzword I've ever been a part of. And it's interesting because there's so much confusion behind it. What is it? What is it? What does it do? Everybody has it. Every technology just throws it out there because they realize the population doesn't really totally understand what it is. So I think that's the biggest thing to watch out for. Make sure you know what they mean when they say AI, right? And it's not just something that's going to do all the work for you. right? It's not something that there are things that can make your life a lot easier. I mean, technology is in every aspect of just about everybody's life right now, and it's making things easier. Real estate is going to be tricky though, because the way we look at it and what we're seeing is that, and also logical, every property is its own individual animal, right? So how does AI know that the property next door has a family of 4 and 4 dogs, and they're next to, in a condo, and they're next to somebody who's a single guy? 4 years ago, they're 2 different properties. How does AI know that, right? And I just think like there's just that sort of thing going on with these individual properties that you can't just throw it into an equation.
Yeah.
And so I always think, me personally, I think there's a place for people in real estate investing as far as I can see. And AI will, it does a really good job of writing things. And the one thing that I see in real estate investing is the marketing for off-market properties. Is a lot of people doing a lot of the same thing, right? Sending postcards, text messages, building lists, sort of that. It's just looking for distressed homeowners or distressed properties. AI can be trained very quickly to take that to the next level. So when, Jane gets a postcard, the AI knows who Jane is, knows what her job is, knows what her situation is, knows 4 or 5 facilities around town that can help her with whatever her situation is. It can, attorneys, doctor, whatever their situation is, right? And if you can write ridiculously tailored individual messages to people and actually in a position to help them out, that's going to win. And you can do that. You can train a bot or AI to do that right now in, probably a day, right?
Yeah.
So I really think like that is going to be one of the things that strategy everybody's relied on for so long is going to get disrupted. I can't predict the future or anything, but it just seems to me like that's one that you want to keep your eye on.
Yep, for sure. I love that. Very insightful there. So another step of technology, or a layer, I guess, would be the customer review or the feedback. With you owning a company that provides a service, I would think that that's maybe a big part of how you do your job, or what the next step is, or what today's problem is. Maybe if you see those pesky 1-star reviews, I'm sure with the robust technology, those are few and far between, but there's always a few pesky people that are writing online about you. So the idea of using customer feedback as constructive criticism, harnessing it the right way to improve your business, can you kind of talk about how you go about seeing a review? Do you use that as motivation? What is that process like for you?
So when you build software, you learn early on, you can only take it so far, and you have to put it in people's hands. You have to see what they think about it. And you have to be open to whatever their feedback is, because they're going to tell you what they want. And that's what we've learned a long time ago. And that's why in today's day and age, they use an NPS score, Net Promoter Score. That's technology, or actually every company has it now. And ours is about 60, which is very good, which means people are openly saying, hey, this does what it says it's going to do, and it's helping me out, right? That makes us feel really great.
Yeah.
But for me, when I build technology, I'm not able to think of everything, right? And nor do I want to. I do want to put in people's hands. I want to tell me what they want, because with where we're at today and with a small agile team that we still have, we can make moves, and we want to build the best product for everybody. Not every idea gets through. You get some crazy ones, but and once in a while, and more often than you think, people will say this particular feature would be better if it did this, and the light bulb will go off, and you'll say, yes, that's actually accurate, and we'll get it in the dev cycle, and we'll get it done. But I think that's the biggest thing, is you have to listen to what people are saying, and if you give them what they want, they're going to be happy. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and I think it's controlling the way you listen to, right? And you're the perfect example of that. What you just explained, that is, use it as a benefit. Don't use it as a detractor. Don't let those negative comments or reviews be the one that gets you bogged down in that negative cycle, right? It's using it as a weapon, essentially, right? Somebody tells you you could do something better, take it to heart and implement the change that sets you apart. And I think for people hearing that, it's a very important distinction, right? Of it's one thing to receive the feedback, it's what you do with it that matters.
Yeah, and I think because it's so powerful that listening to user base, they'll give you the ideas, they'll tell you. And because it's so powerful, we make it super easy for you to tell us. Like, look, I don't like this thing. We want you to tell us. You can talk to people live. And we're very good at customer success in terms of, because real estate investing is a little tricky, even if you do have, straight up logic that seems very simple, it still can be a little tricky. There's just a lot of unique situations. We're all humans and, who knows? So, listening to people, and one of the biggest things we listen to is, are you understanding it? I mean, you show up in a piece of software and it takes a little bit to figure out how it all works because there's a lot going on in there. And you try to figure out, like, what do people need to know day one? What do they need to know day 30? And that is all coming from our user base. Then we want to make sure you're getting it and you're getting it in order. You're not getting confused and taken off with before you even got to see any of the benefits. So I love it. And, I don't see a lot of extremely negative stuff. I really don't. And maybe my team protects me from it, which is, that's a real possibility. Yeah, right. But for the most part, we embrace change.
Yeah, that's good.
We embrace. It's a master mindset. The more people you have looking at something and giving you advice, and you track everything they do too. Are they using it? If they're not using it, then we just ask them, why aren't you using this?
Yeah.
And you take all that information, and it becomes a superpower for you.
For sure. Well, for me, it's probably getting in front of a group of people and presenting. For you, maybe it's unveiling a new feature, but is there ever a time where you get those nervous jitters still of like, I hope this is what people want it to be? Do you still allow yourself to have that? Has the experience kind of led you to be very confident in what you're putting out, or how do you manage that if it comes up at all?
Yeah, I mean, always. We're, like you said, like we're humans, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even walking over here to do this, you can get in your head a lot about what am I going to say, what's going to ask, well, oh man, what if I don't say the right thing, Yeah. But I think that's just part of being human. And you just, if you can see it and address and recognize that it's happening and just let it go, and then you can just get in this relaxed sort of state of mind. So when things get released, it's funny because doing this for a long time, I used to be such a perfectionist about it. Right.
Yeah. It's not ready yet.
Yeah, it's not ready yet. And I was so worried about what people would say and think, or it going wrong, or them not getting it. And when you work with a team of people, and you just have to turn that piece off, and you just have to say, people know what they're doing. People look at it from different perspectives. You're never going to get it 100% right. But if you're in the 80, 90 percentile, push it out. Because you go back to that. You're not afraid anymore because you're trusting people to tell you. Yeah. And if you missed it, they'll tell you. You'll know right away. And you can make those adjustments. We're a small enough company to do that. So it's more like get it out the door.
Yeah.
And my team will probably tell you something different because I do see things. I'm like, oh, wait, that one thing, right? And they're like, man, do you really think that's going to move the needle at all? And, and I'm always, I guess that's the question that gets asked a lot. Is that going to move the needle? Are people going to have an easier time because of that thing? Are we going to be able to generate more revenue to allow us to keep building and building better products? If not, then what's the point, right?
Yeah. So, and I think that nerves or that anxiety or that pressure to perform or deliver a good product, that just means that you care. That means that you're doing the right thing. And I think people get in their own head and kind of let that feeling like take over. And that's when you start to see the anxiety or the nerves or I don't think this is ready yet type of mentality. But at the same time, that just means that you're doing what you're passionate about, what you believe in. And it's kind of fine tuning those nerves and using it as like a superpower. Because I am on camera a lot. I do a lot of different things as like a side hustle or passion where I'm speaking on camera or speaking on a microphone. And, I wish I didn't have those nerves or those jitters, but you just kind of have that deep breath a few minutes before. You're like, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to be working on. And then you kind of just allow yourself to have that peace and the rest just takes care of itself.
Well, that's totally true. And on top of that, you do something for so long and you know it inside and out.
Yep.
And that's what you're talking about. It's really easy to have that conversation.
Yes.
There's almost nothing you can ask me that hasn't been thought out, thought through, or, we've been down the path that we could have an open discussion about, right? And we talk about your user base when they get nervous and anxious about investing in real estate. It's all about plan and strategy. Like when I get nervous, it's because I didn't plan very good, and I don't have a good feel for what's about to happen, and I'm just kind of being reactive to life, and that's when I get nervous and anxious and stressed out, right? And when I have a plan and I know what I'm doing, it's night and day. You're just walking through life with such a level of confidence, and I think that if you're going to place that into real estate investing, it's the same thing. Like, what's your plan? What do you know is going to work? What do you see working, right? And be able to have the confidence. If you don't have the confidence, it's not as fun, right? You are going to be stressed. You are going to be nervous. If you have confidence that you know what you're doing is going to turn out right, then it changes the game. It changes your life. It's and I think that goes with everything, right?
Yep. Hard work and preparation are two key factors in that. So I think we're at another perfect spot. We'll let the sponsors jump in here. We'll see you guys in a few seconds. Scott, thank you so much for the insight today. It's been a blast so far.
Yeah.
Let's get this ad read out of the way, and we'll wrap up here with a great interview.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Whether you are pursuing long-term or short-term ventures, RCN Capital has a wide range of loan programs that will help you reach your financial goals. We have loan programs for fix and flips, long-term rentals, new construction, and even multifamily properties. And don't forget to ask about our Platinum program for very experienced investors. To learn more about our loan programs, click the link in the bio or send an email to info@rcncapital.com today. I'm joined with Scott Fahl, CEO at Privy. Scott, this interview has been one of my favorites so far. We've had some great conversation, some great insight for investors, and that's exactly what we want to provide here on Uncontested Investing. Can't let you leave without the deal breaker, deal maker, though, our second segment of the show. So what do all successful deals have in common, and what causes a deal to break down? The floor is yours. I'll let you take it from here. Let's hear it. Your deal breaker, deal maker.
It's kind of a lot of what we've been talking about already when it comes to strategy and being educated and being proactive and having data and knowledge. It all adds up to whether a deal is going to make it or break it. And when deals don't work out, there's a lot of things involved in real estate investing. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of things that are out of your control, a lot that's in your control. With us, we focus on the front end of acquisitions and being able to do the strategy or figuring out strategies and having the data and information you need so that you're avoiding everything you can up front. So when you're making deals happen and, if you know what you're doing, if you're in an area and you're successfully doing whatever deal strategy you're doing, just repeat it. Just keep repeating it. It lowers the odds of you not, or a deal breaking, I guess I should say. But if you're moving to a new area, that's where things get really interesting. Like if you're going to make deals happen there, our whole strategy is being able to see, again, what other investors are doing and emulate it and be able to dive into if they're doing fix and flips, what are they doing? What are the before and after photos, construction level? How long are these things taking? What's the timeline? What's the ARV they're selling at or buying at? And then what are they selling at days on market? How long is that taking? All that stuff is valuable information that helps you ensure that you have a better opportunity to make these deals happen. Once you get into them, then at that point, you still have to follow through with these deals. That's one thing we see people make a mistake and break deals a lot is they make a prediction of what's going to happen with this property. It takes them 6-8 months to flip the thing, and in that 6-8 months, something's changed. A new property's come to the market, or the price you thought you were going to get, you're not going to get. It can happen the other way too, where now you thought you're going to get X and it's actually 10% more. But being able to track that information while you're involved in these properties just is another security measure for you to make sure that you're doing everything you can to make these deals happen.
More great insight there, Scott, when you're talking about data, preparation, all things that really matter. This can be an emotional industry so easily, right? There's a lot on the line. Sometimes it's someone's only source of income, so they overreact or they act rashly. But with your deal breaker, deal maker strategy, all that kind of gets cleared off the table because you can just rely on numbers, facts, stats, things that are tangible, right? So clearing that clutter, not letting emotion take over and let you act in a way that you normally wouldn't, and having that data as the backbone or the spine of any investment is really a positive and smart strategy.
Yeah, you got it. And we talked about it earlier, anxiety and stress. And when you don't have answers, that's what happens. When you do have them, you move forward with everything in life. And if something happens that was unforeseen that you can't control, that's life.
Yeah.
But at least you know you did everything you could to prepare.
Yeah. So with an entrepreneurial spirit, your innovation, we've talked about unveiling new products. Is there anything that you've been working on at Privy that you're excited that's almost ready to release, or is there any big news in the next, coming months that you think is going to be a game changer for you guys?
Yeah, there's really two things. One is the partnerships that we've been developing lately, where private money lenders and title companies and people getting behind the fact that we have something that can help out a lot of people, including their user base, and be able to more easily find and analyze and track investment properties. Like we all know, that's what we do. Said it a few times. Mm-hmm. But the new feature that comes out, this is something that was sort of visualized a decade ago, and we finally have the team, the capabilities, and the data to pull it off. And what we're calling is fast match. So fast match is essentially being able to put any buy box into a system and be able to match it instantly with real active properties that are happening in a market, or be able to track all investor activity in any area. So for example, earlier we were talking about investors finding something that they know how to do, like a fix and flip, for example, and then repeat it. Mm-hmm. This is that on steroids. So if you put a fix and flip in there, 123 Main Street, you click fast match, we'll show you all the 123 Main Streets that are active in the market, and from now until forever. So every time something shows up, and it matches. It's that same idea we alluded to a little bit earlier with, Zillow, when people go there and they say, I need 3 bedrooms because I need that for my family, right? This is the search that is for investors to be able to say, I need a fix and flip that does X, Y, Z. You can finally do that and we're releasing that in the next, we'll release that in beta and to some of our users in the next 2 weeks, and it should be fully functional by the end of August. Very excited about that.
Wow. So you talked about a decade in the making. What is that like? That's some extreme patience right there, right? You have this idea, but it's not quite ready yet. So what has that been like? Because you obviously want to focus on the day-to-day, what's working for you currently. So can you kind of talk about that process at all, if there's anything worth it there sharing of what that decade-long process has kind of looked like?
Yeah, you eat a lot of patient pills. Just over and over. And you will... The thing is it possible? Can we do it?
Okay.
What does it take? And the more you get algorithms refined and the more data sources you get, and every time you turn a corner, you're like, oh man, we need this other thing or it's not going to work. And we finally are in a place to do it. And a lot of it too is, should we do it? Is it something that's going to make a difference? And now that we've refined it, and it's changed and pivoted, for a decade, but now that we've refined it to what it is today, we're in a very good position to be able to help out a lot of people, which is and simplify real estate investing, which is our ultimate goal. When you talk about lenders, for example, when one of your borrowers comes in and people listen to this, and you close a loan, you'll be able to click fast match and go, here's 17 more properties that match that. Yeah. So now it's just it's put that on autopilot. You should still do everything else you're doing, with off market and however you're sourcing those deals, but being able to even analyze those very quickly to say, does this match my buy box or not, right, is important. But being able to go, yes, it does, find me more, that's what everybody wants, right? Now that I know this works, I have the confidence, my anxiety is gone, this is everything I need, just find me more of those, I'm a happy man. We've solved it.
Yep. So anxiety and stress, we've talked about it over the course of the last 15 minutes here. It comes with the territory, right? It's obviously about managing it, overcoming it. I love asking people, especially CEOs, right? This industry can be all-consuming. So for you, for a passion project, something that refreshes you, recharges you, what is it out there that, really helps you be a better CEO, be a better leader at Privy, come back to work on Monday morning with a clear head? Is there anything out there that you can point to that really helps you?
Yeah, coming Monday morning with a clear head means I didn't stress about everything Privy over the weekend. So you really got to find something that'll take your mind off of it completely. That's the way I feel about it. I know that the more, if I spend weekends stressed about it, I don't really come to work. I don't come to work in a good place, like mentally. But it really didn't accomplish anything. Like once in a while you have an epiphany or something, but it's not worth spending your life just obsessing about this one thing. So essentially you got to find something else to obsess about. And for me, it's two things. One is golf, right? So, and I know that sounds cheesy because everybody's like, oh, I play golf. Well, it's one of the things I can actually obsess about that is challenging enough where it can pull me away. If it's not challenging enough, I'll just get sucked right back in, because what we're doing really is interesting and it really is fun. It's like the best size company to be able to just have a blast doing it. So, you need something that you get obsessed about. And then the other thing is, I am one of those guys who bought an old British sports car.
Oh,
and if you know anything about British engineering, when it comes to cars, they're not the best. So it's a constant battle of getting this thing, on the road and ready, and getting it out there so that I can go zoom around in it, right? And so those two things are mostly where my head goes. And I live in the Rocky Mountains too, so our backyard is an absolute gorgeous place. And so I spent a lot of time just driving straight up there, parking the car, and just walking through the mountains. It's or skiing on the mountains or rafting the mountains. So. And if you're an entrepreneur and you want to like blow some stress off, that's one of the best ways to do that. Just get outside.
Golf is certainly speaking my language with that. Talk about obsession. Yeah, just a little bit. Do you follow it actively or do you kind of just play it?
Well, I started a golf league
in
Denver. So we got 24 guys. So that's, every Monday we play. So I do that.
Okay, cool.
With those 24 guys, there's always a tee time available, right? So I haven't booked a tee time in 3 years. Hopefully I don't watch this. Get at me about that. But so it's just who's playing this weekend and I get to go.
Nice.
So that's I play a lot, but I also enjoy watching it. But it's interesting the way I watch golf probably versus other people. I'm literally watching how they're swinging the club all the time. Like I'm not really enjoying the game. I'm really kind of I'm playing the swing right now instead of playing the game, and I'm trying to like snap out of that and get
what
back.
What can I incorporate into my game type of thing?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yep, for sure. PGA Tour, the British Open is coming up. That's why I ask. So I can't wait to when golf goes back to Scotland, England, some of those places where the game began. I think it's also cool from a historian perspective to be like, wow, they were really out there in 1860 slapping some random golf ball with this wooden stick around, and this is what the game is. So it's pretty cool. So Scott, I think the only thing left to do as we wrap up here is how can people find Privy? I think through your answers, through your insight, your personality, all these things are going to attract investors to kind of be like, Privy, I need to find out more, don't I? So can you kind of give them some opportunities where they can learn more about what you guys are doing and how to find you?
Yeah, sure. So the easiest thing is the website, Privy, privy.pro, P-R-O. It's not your normal website. So we realize like real estate investing and investors, and we work with agents and we work with lenders and title. Everybody needs a path and a journey into our system and our ecosystem, our world. And so we talk to you specifically. Like if you're an investor, we'll help you get to the point of understanding what it is we can do for you, right? So I highly recommend starting there. But I mentioned earlier in this podcast that we have an amazing CS team, customer success team, and you can talk to people. You get one-on-one demos. We have weekly webinars and trainings. Take advantage of that. If you, it's on you as an investor to be able to educate yourself.
Yep.
And if people are out there, spending decades trying to make this stuff easier for you and try to put all this stuff together for you, go check it out. I mean, they're not doing that for nothing, right? It's got to be worth it.
Yeah.
And I don't, not everything's created equal, right? And I'm a little biased for sure, but our obsession is to make it easier. So, and we want to hear from you. Did we accomplish it? And what else can we do? So go check it out.
Nice. There you have it. So Scott Fahl, Privy, real estate investors, what are you waiting for? We've got a good product right here. Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It was fun. Our listeners, I hope, learn something and, have something to think about going forward with their career. So we covered a lot of great topics here, and I appreciate your time very much. For all our listeners out there, thank you. This has been an episode of Uncontested Investing. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you all in the next one.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.